We are the light of science to brighten minds.
We are the magic of knowledge given from one to another.
We
are teachers.
Hello, and welcome to the We Are Teachers WATcast, episode number 11. My name is Sandy Fivecoat, and I will be your host.
This WATcast is sponsored by Learning A to Z. Through 6 integrated websites, Learning A to Z provides anytime, anywhere web access to pre-K through 6 resources serving a wide range of student needs including general education, ELL, ESL, response to intervention, and special education. Learning A to Z believes that literacy is the foundation of all learning, and the best resources help teachers differentiate their instruction to meet the needs of all students.
Today on our WATcast, we hope to give you some great ideas to help you stretch those scarce dollars while still giving your students exactly what they need to succeed. To help us with this discussion, we are very excited to have 2 practicing teachers. We have Imelda O'Neill and Connie Ramsey joining us. Thank you so much for being with us today, ladies. I'd love to hear more about what you do and your background. So, Connie, can you tell us a bit about what you do?
Sure. I've been teaching for over 30 years now, and I started out as a special ed teacher and then became a literacy coach for my district. Then I moved into gifted and highly capable, and now I'm a Title I teacher, part-time, half-time, and a librarian half-time. And I became nationally board certified in 2004 in literacy.
Wonderful. Wow, 30 years. That's a really long time to be a teacher. I know you're just full of great information. Imelda, tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. I am in my 20th year of teaching in the field, and I have been in the past a preschool teacher. I've been a parent educator, a curriculum developer, a primary level classroom teacher. I moved into the field of reading recovery and then became a literacy coordinator. And for the past 7 years, I've been a Title I teacher. The last 2 really concentrating on Tier 2 and Tier 3 RTI intervention. And I'm also with Connie on the Learning A to Z advisory board. So that gives us some time to work on some products that are important in the field.
Wow. Well, Learning A to Z is certainly lucky to have 2 distinguished, tenured teachers, and I know they're grateful for the help you all are able to provide them. I'm always happy when companies reach out to teachers and get real practical ideas embedded in their products, so that's great to hear. Imelda, let's start with you. I know part of what happens in a classroom are just resources associated with practice. What kinds of resources do you use to really add value in the classroom, especially when you consider ease of use and cost as important factors?
And ease of use and cost are very important factors. Over the years, I've really found one incredible resource, and that is a part of the Learning A to Z suites of websites that are available. One is called Reading A to Z. Reading A to Z provides a number of different formats for giving instructional materials to teachers, but the key is leveled text. So if you're looking at differentiating within the classroom, phenomenal resource. The levels actually go literally from AA to Z. So within a classroom, you have all the materials you need to differentiate. They have lesson plans that go with it, comprehension quizzes, pretty much anything you could need as a teacher is part of that subscription to Reading A to Z. So it's a fantastic resource. Along with that, we use Raz Kids, which is an online reading program. Again, the children tap into leveled texts, and they read at their own pace. They can listen to the story. They can take comprehension quizzes. And there are a number of reports that the teachers can tap into to see how their students are doing, to monitor their progress. And for the money that you pay for those subscriptions, it's just so invaluable. It's amazing the opportunity there for teachers to tap into those materials.
Wonderful, thanks. Connie, do you have anything to add?
I would certainly agree with her on all the Reading A to Z and Learning A to Z materials. And one of the things with that site, one of the sister sites, is vocabulary A to Z, and I think for ELL children, that is a real boon. It has great materials and activities, and they're fun for kids. So that's one. One of the other things that my school does, and I think a lot of schools do, is they have a book room. And the book room, when we did that, our teachers from K through 3 had lots of sets of books in their classrooms, multiple copies, say 6 to 8 copies of books, and they would use them. But most of the time the books sat without being used because the teacher only used a few at a time. And so we made an agreement with everybody that we would put all of our books in a book room. And everybody put their books, even though it was kind of hard for people to give up their books. We put them in one book room so everyone has access to all the books. So teachers don't feel like they need to go out and buy more books, really, so much unless they need them for something specific, because there's a lot of materials there now available for folks. So that's one of the things that has really, I think, helped our school.
Oh, that's great, and especially in this cost-conscious environment now where every dollar counts, that's a great idea to get teachers to pool their resources and help each other meet the needs of the kids. Connie, let's go to another topic, and that's one that I think all of us who've ever taught are very aware of and challenged with every day, and that's this idea of motivating students, and particularly struggling students who are having a difficult time perhaps with reading. What ideas and tips do you have to really motivate students to do more reading practice?
Well, a couple of quick things, and then I want to explain one in a little more depth, because that is a real key for those Tier 2 and Tier 3 kids that Imelda and I certainly work very closely with. But even our Tier 1 kids who often aren't, they may be capable readers, but they're not always as motivated as we would like to see them. One of the things that our building has also agreed to is we have a reading calendar. Each classroom teacher has a reading calendar, goes home every week, and the kids keep track of how much they read. And the teachers are very closely monitoring that, and we try to work with the parents to make sure that they're on board with that. So that's one of their assigned homeworks, and that's K through 6. We all do that. So it's kind of a building plan that all parents know it's part of our building. And we also use reading counts, which is another kind of motivating activity for our kids in our school. And so that really helps our kids keep reading maybe more difficult books. So that's a really great opportunity for our kids. And one of the things that we do in our school, fortunately in the school we have parent volunteers, and we have a lot of community retired people. They're a wonderful resource to tap into. And also those folks can be very motivating for kids, because I have set up a volunteer tutoring program for children. And I have about 15 volunteers who come in every week for a half a day. And they sit down one-on-one with kids, and I have a structured reading program for them to work through, kind of based on the Treasures materials from Macmillan. And it is really helpful for those kids to know that they're going to be sitting down 3 to 4 times a week with an adult who really cares about them and really is kind of helping them and talking to them and builds a relationship with them. And I think that creates for the children the idea that reading is important, not just to their teacher, not just to their parent, but to other people too.
Mm-hmm. Great ideas. Imelda, do you have anything to add in terms of motivating students?
Yes, I think those are really great ideas too. I was thinking about tapping into reading incentive programs like on the national level, the Book It program. We go ahead and have our students participate in that here. We also have local incentive programs, which some teachers may have in their area. There's a local water park that rewards children for their reading. Also, teachers in general keep classroom reading logs and typically reward children for filling out those logs consistently. We also have a computer night where our children are allowed to come into our computer lab, and they go on to Raz Kids and simply read for that time. And that's a very popular night here. We have many, many students that participate during that. And I would say the other thing is when you're trying to get children to read, especially at the lower levels, I think it's important for teachers to utilize books that they know are familiar to the children so that when they do take them home, they can read them successfully with their with their other siblings or with parents. But having that confidence in reading helps them transition that to home reading.
Oh, great ideas. Awesome. Imelda, you mentioned computer night and technology. Can you elaborate on other ways that technology plays a role in classrooms, especially in the area of giving students access to practice?
Right. Well, I think primarily in our school, Raz Kids does a lot of that because Raz Kids has a component to it that you can actually, it's web-based, so you can access the program from home. And they also have a very nice parent letter that you can access as a teacher, and you fill it out. It's got the student's password and where to go, what website to log on to. And utilizing that parent letter, we send that home, and the children go ahead and they access that from home. And we can see here from the reports they literally are logging on and reading at home, which is wonderful. They also have a summer reading program that goes along with that to prevent that summer slide, where the children can log on at home and continue reading at their level.
Wonderful. Connie, I'm sure in your part of the world, in Spokane, Washington, there's probably technology access. What ways do you all use technology in the classrooms?
Well, I really want to reiterate the Raz Kids program because it's such a low cost. It's for one membership cost. You can offer that to your entire class. And there's really no other cost to it aside from headphones, which are not that expensive anymore with mics on them. But we use that a lot. And I think you also can look at core reading programs. They have a lot of online support, too. But I also want to bring up many of the websites, like your website, We Are Teachers. I haven't had a chance to look at it really in depth, but I really want to because it's got an amazing amount of resources and supports for teachers. It looks amazing to me. And there's other sites out there, too, that teachers can access. We also use some of the things that our state department has for, based on our state assessments, that we can go onto those websites and they can really help us with materials that support the state expectations.
What, as a teacher who's been in the classroom for a really long time, think back to your beginning days of teaching, what kinds of advice would you give brand new teachers who are just beginning their careers in terms of outfitting their classrooms for success, particularly with a limited budget? What kinds of things are just the absolute must-haves? Connie, let's start with you.
One of the things I think teachers, young teachers, new teachers, may feel a little uncomfortable talking to their peers. They may feel like, well, they don't want to appear like they're not knowledgeable. But I think teachers who have experience can give them so many tips on how to find materials, what kind of strategies to use, and those kinds of things. So I would really encourage them because those teachers, as some of us who've been around for a long time, have collected so many materials, and we're really willing to share with people those sets of books or other materials, just strategy posters, all kinds of things that we've created and developed. And I think most experienced teachers feel they're being complimented when someone asks for their advice because that means that someone feels that what they're doing is of value. So I think that's one great thing. I know teachers are always looking for books for their classroom libraries, just even single copies of books that are available for kids that you can say, hey, this is a great book. Why don't you take this home and read this during your reading time at home that you have? And I think one of the things that I've discovered recently is used bookstores. And we have a bookstore near my house called Second Look Books, which I love the name of that. And what I've discovered is I can take books in there, my own books that I've read, and exchange them for kind of dollars within the store. They don't give me money back, but they give me credit within the store. And there's children's books all through that store. And I've been able to collect a lot of books through that, even for my library. And it's been really a great resource because the books, they may be $1, and for some really good, up-to-date even books. So that's been, I think, a really great resource lately. So I would recommend people try to track down some secondhand bookstores.
Great idea. Imelda, do you have other things to add for new teachers?
Well, I would like to piggyback on what Connie said before. I think that when you're looking for products, websites that are, web-based materials that you can access that offer you versatility and utility and offer you an opportunity to differentiate. No matter what student you're working with, you can tap into that resource. That's what they should be looking for. And as Connie said before, there are a number of web-based resources now that teachers can tap into. There's one that I particularly like from a website called realllygreatreading.com, and that one is an online letters tile tool where children manipulate the letter tiles. And you can use that with any phonics program, no matter if I'm working with my first graders, I can use it, or my fifth graders if I'm working on decoding multisyllable words. It's just a great resource. So looking for those resources that really allow you to tap into each student's abilities and needs. The other thing I would say must-haves are leveled text in the classroom. And because we're moving into such a time of accountability, some progress monitoring tools, whether you're using Phonics and Parental or just basic running records. There's Dibbles out there that you can use for free for progress monitoring. AimsWeb is another, I think, affordable site for what you use it for progress monitoring. Tapping into those two things, I believe, is really important. And as she said, too, books that maybe are not leveled but just high interest. A lot of times I've gone to the local yard sales over the summer and gotten collections of books that way. But building a really nice comprehensive leveled library and interest library in your classroom, I think, is most important.
Wonderful ideas.
Can I just add one thing?
You bet.
A couple things to that. She brought up the assessment issues, and I would also like to bring up that website that she mentioned. And Imelda, can you tell me that one?
AimsWeb?
No, the other one that you mentioned first.
ReallyGreatReading.com?
Yes, ReallyGreatReading.com. It has some phonics tests that we have found really valuable, and we have just now kind of adopted them to use across our district. They really help to identify strengths and weaknesses in phonetic knowledge of kids, and it's all free. They're really good. And also on Reading A to Z and Raz Kids, there are running records that are embedded in each level of the program. And so teachers who don't have really quick access to a running record kit, it's all right there for you. And it's all set up as with the format for running record documentation and everything. So it's a really great resource even for assessments.
It is really wonderful. And if I may add a little bit, and they're also, their benchmarks are also fiction and nonfiction. And the text throughout Reading A to Z are fiction and nonfiction. So you're able to tap into both genres, which is really a nice resource.
Oh, that's great. And also important for assessment and accountability later on, because I know a lot of the state tests have differentiated questions based on literary type. So that's really, really great for teachers to do that assessment that way. Let's move to budget cuts. Imelda, I'm going to start with you. You're in Indiana, where I know education is under fire. I'm in Texas, by the way, where it's equally so. I'm sure it's this way in every state in the union right now. It seems that in the spirit of balancing budgets and cutting public funds, education is always on the chopping block, unfortunately. How have the discussion of budget cuts or the reality of budget cuts, have they really affected your personal work in your work? And have you found ways to overcome these challenges?
I have seen it here, and I think it really has focused our attention on what is really research-based best practice. Because no longer are you just buying materials because it looks like something that will work. It needs to have some research base beside it so that you can say, I'm going to get this or purchase this program or this material because there's research backing it saying that it works in the classroom, or in my case, works in intervention. So that's really important. I think that professional development has also suffered. the opportunities to go other places and to conferences and things like that. So I believe, though, the way that I've handled that is I do a lot of research online, which is a nice tool. It's available to me quickly. I can just spend time at home doing it. But it also requires a lot of time and consideration, and you have to be careful where the sources are for your research. But that's one way to kind of get away from, the lack of professional development, is that I think teachers need to take more on themselves in terms of their own professional development.
Well, I know sometimes the budget cuts are good because they focus our energies and, as you say, make us more aligned with results, research, etc.
Yes. Also, there are some websites, donorschoose.com, for materials that teachers can go and put something on there that they can. I believe they apply to see if they'd like to have their project. They tell a little bit about their project and then ask others to donate to that. And websites like your own, We Are Teachers, that offer grants to teachers who are looking for materials and nice ways of using materials in the classroom. Those are nice things to tap into. Sometimes, too, locally there are foundations, like educational foundations, that will allow teachers to apply for grants. So those are things to keep in mind.
Great suggestions. Connie, do you have anything to add?
One of the things that we have been cut big time with is aid time, paraeducator time. And that's where we've had to really go to parent volunteers. And I know a lot of schools don't have access to a lot of parent volunteers. And what I would recommend people do is try to tap into some retired folks. Our retirees that we have involved in our parent volunteer program, really volunteer program, are some of our most reliable. They love coming and seeing the kids. And I think if you go to some retirement homes, some assisted living facilities that have people who are still capable and able to get out, those folks are wonderful. And I would really recommend people look into those facilities for one-on-one assistance with kids. And another thing, I'm glad Imelda brought up the professional development piece, because I've been really involved in my state and local IRA associations. And those places, I think, are the best kept secrets in education, and they don't want to be a secret. I would really recommend people look into what is their local and state IRA association offering to them. We certainly have been hurt by budget cuts because districts are not really able financially to send groups of teachers to conferences and things anymore. But the bang for your buck, basically, with those memberships is really quite outstanding. Our local organization, for the state, it's a $20 membership, and we bring in we usually have about 8 workshops after school and Saturdays. During the school year, we offer clock hours for people at $2 a clock hour. We had Taffy Raphael come in, who is a national speaker. It cost our members nothing to hear her. And so those organizations, I would really recommend people look into. It's a fabulous resource and very well documented as to effectiveness and really research-based, as Imelda mentioned.
Wonderful. Let's finish with one last question. This one is near and dear to my heart, and it has to do with connecting the school environment to the home and extending the school day and parental involvement. Do you all have suggestions for resources or techniques or suggestions in general to help with that home-school connection? Let's start with Imelda.
Well, at Ridgeview here, we do try and establish that home-school connection. I think for me as an interventionist, it's particularly important. I really like being able, if I send a note home with parents, of following through and talking with them on the telephone and establishing that. I know it's not often done, but as a title teacher, I do send home homework. And that I think that the parent has to be accountable for that. They have to sign that the homework's done. And that accountability, that a daily accountability, helps bridge the gap of homeschool connection as well. So I'm considerably involved with the parent, especially at the Tier 3 level, because it's so incredibly important that they know each step along the way. And of course, in intervention work, they're brought in for the beginning conference and an ending conference, and every step of the way they're involved and they know what's going on. In terms of the home, I think that, their general ed classroom, teachers really work hard to establish those relationships and keep them going. I know that we have a parent volunteer program here where the parents come in and work in the classroom. Also, the resources that you use are important. I think that when you have resources like Reading A to Z, that you have book materials that can go home and children can be successful in their reading of those texts, and that encourages children to go home and take those books and read them with parents. I think that makes a big difference, too, in terms of that homeschool connection.
Great. Connie, do you have anything to add to that homeschool connection?
I think one of the things that our teachers are utilizing more and more are websites, their own personal website that goes through our district's website. And those are really an awesome way of staying connected with parents. There can be links to other outside websites such as Raz Kids, as Imelda has mentioned, and lots of other support materials out there, research websites that are really high quality research. If a sixth grade student has a Greek, some kind of a Greek report that they need to write, they put up websites and links to websites that are very useful for those kids so that at home they can access those without any trouble. And it really helps to make sure that parents are updated on what's going on in the classroom. Teachers can easily update those websites weekly and really keep parents up to date in an easy way. And most of our parents today have access to a computer. And if you really talk about, especially at the beginning of the year, show parents how to get onto those websites and all of the resources that teachers put up there. I think that's kind of a really new way that teachers are really communicating with parents.
Wonderful ideas. Well, that's all the time we have today. Connie and Imelda, thank you so much for all of your thoughts and your insights and giving us the benefit of your experience as teachers and working with special children in all kinds of ways. To our listening audience, if you would like to learn more about what we discussed today or about the sponsor of this WATcast, Learning A to Z, please visit our blog at weareteachers.com. Also, we would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any comments or suggestions for new WATcasts we should be producing or topics you'd like us to discuss, please contact us at WATcast@weareteachers.com. Thanks again for joining us, and everyone have a great day.
This WATcast is sponsored by Learning A to Z.